We're all accustomed to handling the personal information of our family, friends, even associates. Think about what you do when your friend Bob asks for the phone number or address of your other friend Terry, when you know full well that Bob and Terry are not acquainted. Why, then, is not this same understanding common with respect to email addresses? Especially with the difficulty today in staying free from spam, phishing, and other fraudulent email attacks, why are email addresses not guarded with the same veracity and understanding that is given to a simple phone number? Personally, I don't care who has my phone number. I'm much more concerned about email. Aside from the occasional robo phone call, there's little harm that can be done to me by phone. Email, on the other hand, brings with it the full capabilities of the computers behind it. And with the automated spread of email bombs, viruses, trojans, hacks, and other malware, we have to start insisting that our email addresses be treated with better care. Of course, this is often a difficult conversation to have with family or friends, so let's take a look at some of the hows and whys. Here's an example of an email, and I haven't tried to count them, but you'll notice every single recipient is included on the to header, the to field. I don't know, but maybe one or two of the people on this list. But because the author chose to put every email in this to field, they've made every one of those email addresses public and visible to every recipient of this email. 20 years ago, before there really was an internet, when we all tended to play with this technology at our colleges and universities, you couldn't put but one address in the to field. That's obviously changed today. And if you're sending an email out to a couple of friends at once, there's no reason you can't put them all in the to field. But usually etiquette demands that that's reserved for people that all know, and email each other. But aside from just the etiquette side of it, there's a real danger here. I now have the email address of every one of these people. If my computer has an email virus listening to every email that comes my way, I've now given that virus or Trojan every single one of these emails. And this malware is smart. It's not going to mail every one of these people and appear to be coming from the original author. It might mail Bob and look like it's coming from Ted, or it might mail Wendy and make it look like it's coming from Sally, or anybody in its database of email addresses. It's going to confuse the issue, mix and match, and send things in every direction at once. Because just like the spores from a mushroom, it wants to distribute its payload as far and as wide as possible. If we take a look at this email here, however, this email also went out to probably exactly the same list of people. But the only email that I have access to is the original sender's. It's all a matter of knowing how to use your email editor. Unfortunately, Microsoft doesn't often make this easy. This is part of Office 365, the latest version. I do remember, though, that in past versions of Outlook, you had to fight to surface the BCC option. You had to go in there and tell it to show the BCC field, which means that Microsoft isn't really doing us all a favor when the default is not even to show it at all. However, this is one of the most important fields that you should understand how to use when using email today. Blind carbon copy is just like it sounds, and is just like it historically is meant from the days of typewriter and carbon copies. So how do we best use this field? Let's review quickly. Our concern is exposing email addresses as bits of personal information to strangers who, while they may know us, do not necessarily know each other. So our first concern is to understand the mail fields that are public and viewable by all recipients. As discussed, these are the to and CC fields. The distinction between these fields today is minor, and to a degree based solely on preference and context. But they both expose any addresses to all other addresses in both fields. So on one hand, we need to remember if our list of recipients are, in effect, strangers to each other, etiquette demands we take better care of their personal information. That leaves us with the BCC field. So how's this field different? It's a bit tricky, but relatively straightforward. Best stated, any addresses in the BCC field are hidden from any other addresses in the email, and all other rules apply. What this means gets tricky only if you start to mix to and CC with BCC, which is perfectly valid and can lead to some interesting and helpful combinations. But this means it is just all the more important to be fully clear on the rules. So, all recipients in the BCC are protected from each other. However, they will still see all public addresses. Which addresses are those? Any addresses listed in the to and CC fields. In this example, Kevin, Charles, and Ted are all invisible to each other and to Sherry. They're invisible to every recipient in the email. However, they still see Sherry. Sherry's in a public field. Sherry is visible to all recipients of this email. It's a pretty straightforward system, but you must understand how BCC works. I hope this has helped. I thought about writing a small piece of innocuous malware to maybe just poke fun at folks who continue to use email as a bludgeon, rather than a tool that should at least be understood just a bit before use. Something small that might mail itself out to all the exposed addresses, putting a bit of fear into the recipients right before delivering a punchline. But this route seemed a bit easier. But you never know. I once had the geniuses at the University of Arizona place me on a list of faculty that had 253 addresses in the to field. I mean, really. And a university, no less. Well, so much for public education, eh? So spread the word. It's always hard to correct people on what should be a simple tool and a common sense issue, so feel free to let me be the bad guy and share this video. I hope it helps you avoid these prickly conversations while helping to spread understanding of this valuable address field.